The morning sun cast long shadows across the ancient palace courtyard as Master Kim Jun-hyo adjusted his black belt for the final time. At 52 years old, he had dedicated 35 years of his life to the art of Taekwondo, earning respect. Across South Korea as one of the most skilled practitioners in the country, his weathered hands told stories of countless training sessions, broken boards, and victories in international competitions. Today, however, would be unlike any other day in his remarkable career. The invitation had arrived 3 weeks earlier, written on official palace letterhead with the royal seal embossed in gold. The royal guard wanted to demonstrate their combat readiness to foreign dignitaries, and they had requested Master Kim to participate in what they described as a friendly exhibition match. The letter was formal, respectful, and carried the weight of tradition that ran deep in Korean culture. When the palace calls, one answers. Master Kim had trained thousands of students over the decades. His dojang in Seoul was legendary among martial artists, known for producing champions and instilling discipline that went far beyond physical techniques. Students traveled from across Asia to learn from him, drawn by his reputation for combining ancient wisdom with modern fighting techniques. He had never backed down from a challenge. But something about this invitation made him pause. The royal guards were no ordinary opponents. These men were selected from the elite ranks of the Korean military, trained not just in ceremonial duties but in real combat situations. They protected the most important figures in the nation, and their training was intense, secretive, and comprehensive. Unlike sport fighters or dojo students, these guards trained for life-and-death situations where failure meant more than losing points or trophies. As Master Kim walked through the palace gates that morning, he noticed the unusual number of people gathering. What was supposed to be a simple demonstration had apparently attracted attention from media outlets, government officials, and curious onlookers. The courtyard buzzed with excitement, and cameras were being set up at strategic angles. The master began to realize this event had grown beyond its original scope. The Royal Guard captain approached him with measured steps, his uniform pristine and his posture radiating authority. Captain Lee Sangmin was 38 years old, standing 6 feet tall with the build of someone who had never missed a day of training. His eyes held the steady gaze of a professional warrior, someone who had faced real danger and emerged stronger. The handshake between the two men was firm, respectful, but carried an undercurrent of competitive tension that neither could entirely hide. Palace officials explained. The format would be simple. A series of demonstration techniques followed, by light sparring, to showcase different fighting styles. The emphasis would be on skill rather than power, artistry rather than aggression. Both men nodded their agreement, though each privately wondered if the reality would match these diplomatic words once the action began. The crowd had grown larger, and Master Kim spotted several of his senior students who had somehow learned about the event and come to watch their teacher in action. Their presence filled him with both pride and additional pressure. These young men and women had devoted years to learning from him, and today they would see whether their master could hold his own against Korea's elite guardsmen. As he began his warm-up routine, Master Kim felt the familiar calm that always preceded important matches. His breathing slowed, his movements became more fluid, and his mind entered the focused state that had served him well in countless competitions. The sounds of the crowd faded into background noise as he centered himself, drawing on decades of experience and training that had become as natural as breathing. Captain Lee was conducting his own preparations, running through tactical movements with mechanical precision. His training was different from the master's, less flowery, more direct, focused on neutralizing threats quickly and efficiently. Where Master Kim's movements resembled a dance, the captain's looked like controlled violence barely held in check. The atmosphere grew tense as both men completed their preparations. What had started as a cultural demonstration was transforming into something more significant. The crowd sensed it, the media sensed it, and most importantly, both fighters sensed it. This would be more than just an exhibition. It would be a test of two different philosophies of combat, two different approaches to martial excellence, meeting in a collision that no one could predict. The referee, a retired general with silver hair and kind eyes, called both men to the center of the courtyard. His voice carried across the space with military authority, explaining the rules that would govern this unusual encounter. 3 rounds of light contact sparring, points awarded for clean techniques, and above all, mutual respect between the competitors. The crowd fell silent as the two warriors faced each other and bowed deeply, honoring the traditions that bound them together. Despite their different backgrounds, Master Kim studied his opponent carefully as they moved into fighting positions. Captain Lee's stance was lower than traditional Taekwondo, his hands positioned to defend against multiple types of attacks. The guard's training clearly emphasized practical combat over tournament-style point fighting. His eyes never left the master's centerline, watching for the subtle shifts in weight and breathing that would telegraph incoming attacks. The first exchange came quickly and unexpectedly. Master Kim launched a testing front kick, not meant to score, but to gauge his opponent's reactions and timing. Captain Lee's response was immediate and efficient, a simple side step followed by a counterpunch that stopped just inches from the master's ribs. The crowd murmured appreciatively at the display of control and precision from both fighters. They circled each other like predators, each looking for openings while remaining defensively sound. Master Kim's movements flowed like water, his feet barely seeming to touch the ground as he shifted positions and angles. In contrast, Captain Lee moved with mechanical precision, each step calculated for maximum efficiency and minimum energy expenditure. The difference in their styles was becoming clear to the educated observers in the audience. The master decided to test the guard's defensive capabilities with a combination he had perfected over decades of competition. A feinted high kick followed by a lightning-fast low sweep designed to catch opponents off guard and create scoring opportunities. The technique had won him countless matches in his younger days, and muscle memory guided his body through the familiar motions. Captain Lee read the attack perfectly, stepping back just enough to avoid the sweep while simultaneously launching a counterattack that caught everyone by surprise. His response was not a traditional martial arts technique, but rather a combat move designed for real-world application. The crowd gasped as his hands moved in patterns they had never seen in sport fighting. Techniques that belonged in military training rather than public demonstrations. Master Kim found himself on the defensive for the first time, adjusting his strategy as he realized his opponent was not following conventional fighting patterns. The guard's attacks came from unexpected angles, mixing traditional striking with grappling elements and close-quarters combat techniques. This was not the friendly sparring session the palace officials had described. This was a serious test of fighting ability. The first round ended with both men having landed several clean techniques, though the scoring was difficult to judge given the different nature of their approaches. Master Kim had demonstrated superior kicking techniques and traditional martial arts excellence, while Captain Lee had shown practical combat effectiveness and adaptability under pressure. The crowd was divided in their opinions about who had performed better during the brief rest period. Master Kim's students called out encouragement, while palace officials whispered among themselves about the intensity level that was developing. Both fighters used the time to reassess their strategies, each having learned valuable information about their opponent's capabilities and limitations. The master realized he was facing someone whose training had prepared him for scenarios far beyond sport competition. The guard's techniques were designed to incapacitate opponents quickly, and only his professional discipline was keeping the encounter within acceptable bounds for public viewing. This knowledge changed Master Kim's approach. He would need to use his full arsenal of skills to remain competitive. Captain Lee, meanwhile, was impressed by the master's technical precision and adaptability. He had expected to dominate the encounter through superior conditioning and modern training methods, but the older man was proving more resilient and skilled than anticipated. The guard found himself working harder than expected to maintain his advantage. The second round began with increased intensity from both fighters. Master Kim abandoned his testing approach and began using the advanced techniques that had made him famous throughout the martial arts world. His kicks came faster and from more varied angles, forcing Captain Lee to adjust his defensive positioning constantly. The guard responded by closing the distance, trying to negate the master's reach. Advantage and force the fighting into close quarters where his training would be more effective. The two men engaged in a fascinating tactical battle, each trying to impose his preferred fighting range and rhythm on the encounter. As the round progressed, both fighters began to breathe more heavily, and small signs of fatigue started to show. The crowd was completely absorbed in the display of skill and determination, forgetting this was supposed to be a friendly demonstration. Something special was happening in the courtyard, and everyone present could feel it. The second round reached its climax when Master Kim attempted his signature technique, a jumping, spinning heel kick that had never failed him in competition. The move required perfect timing and tremendous flexibility, but when executed correctly, it was nearly impossible to defend against. He had spent countless hours perfecting this technique. It had become his trademark in the martial arts community. Captain Lee saw the technique coming and made a split-second decision that shocked everyone watching. Instead of backing away or attempting to block, he stepped forward into the attack, using a close combat technique that transformed the master's offensive move into a potential vulnerability. The guard's counter was so unexpected that even the experienced martial artists in the crowd gasped at its audacity. Both men froze for a moment, realizing how close they had come to a serious collision. The referee quickly stepped in to separate them, reminding both fighters about the exhibition nature of the event. However, the competitive fire in both men's eyes made it clear that the boundaries between demonstration and real combat were becoming increasingly blurred. The crowd's energy reached a new level as they witnessed this display of advanced fighting techniques from two masters of their respective crafts. Cell phones appeared throughout the audience as people began recording what was clearly becoming a historic encounter. Palace security looked nervous about the attention the event was attracting, but it was too late to stop the momentum that had built up. Master Kim felt a surge of respect for his opponent, recognizing in Captain Lee a warrior whose skills had been forged in circumstances far more demanding than tournament competition. At the same time, his competitive instincts were fully awakened for the first time in years. He had forgotten how much he enjoyed facing a truly challenging opponent who could push him to his limits. The final round began with both men showing signs of the physical and mental effort they had expended. Sweat glistened on their faces and their breathing was more labored, but their focus remained laser-sharp. Each had taken the measure of the other, and now the real test would begin. Captain Lee changed his strategy completely, abandoning the defensive approach that had served him well in the earlier rounds. He began pressing forward aggressively, using combinations that mixed traditional strikes with unconventional angles and timing. His military training emphasized seizing the initiative and maintaining pressure until the opponent broke. Master Kim found himself being pushed backward for the first time in the encounter, forced to rely on defensive techniques he rarely needed to use in normal sparring sessions. The guard's relentless pressure was unlike anything he had faced in sport competition, and he realized he was experiencing what real combat might feel like for the first time in his career. The turning point came when both men launched simultaneous attacks, each reading the other's intentions perfectly, but choosing to commit anyway. Master Kim's high kick met Captain Lee's advancing punch in a collision of techniques that demonstrated the highest level of martial arts skill. Both attacks stopped just short of contact, showing the incredible control both men possessed even under intense pressure. The crowd erupted in appreciation for the display of skill and sportsmanship they had just witnessed. Even the palace officials were applauding their earlier concerns about the intensity, forgotten in the face of such an amazing demonstration of Korean martial excellence. But the real surprise was yet to come. As the formal sparring concluded, and both men prepared to bow and end the exhibition, Captain Lee made an unexpected gesture. He removed his guard insignia and placed it on the ground, then bowed deeply to Master Kim in a way that went far beyond normal courtesy. The crowd fell silent, sensing that something significant was happening. The guard's voice carried across the courtyard as he spoke words that no one had anticipated. He asked Master Kim to accept him as a student, acknowledging that despite his military training and combat experience, he had encountered something in the master's technique and philosophy that he wanted to learn. The request was formal, traditional, and completely sincere. Master Kim was stunned by the request. In all his years of teaching, he had never been approached by someone of Captain Lee's caliber and experience.
Oh.
The guard was not seeking basic instruction or casual lessons. He was asking to become a true student in the traditional sense. He was willing to start over and learn from the beginning despite his own considerable skills. The palace courtyard remained absolutely quiet as everyone waited for the master's response. This moment had transformed from a simple demonstration into something much more meaningful. A bridge between different worlds of martial arts, a recognition that true skill deserves respect regardless of its source, and an acknowledgement that learning never ends, even for those who have already achieved greatness. Master Kim looked into Captain Lee's eyes and saw something that reminded him of himself 30 years earlier, a burning desire to improve, to learn, and to push beyond current limitations. The guard's request was not born from defeat or inadequacy, but from the recognition of excellence and the wisdom to seek it out wherever it could be found. After a long moment of consideration, the master nodded slowly and extended his hand to help Captain Lee to his feet. The crowd exploded into cheers and applause as the two men embraced in mutual respect. What had begun as a demonstration of opposing styles had become a beautiful example of how true martial artists recognize and honor skill in each other. The palace officials looked relieved that the intensity had resolved into such a positive outcome, while the media representatives scrambled to capture every moment of this unexpected development. Over the following weeks, an unusual routine developed. Captain Lee would arrive at Master Kim's dojang early each morning before reporting for his royal duties. The guard approached his new training with the same dedication and discipline that had made him elite in military service. But he also showed a humility that impressed the master's other students. The other students were initially intimidated by training alongside someone of Captain Lee's reputation and physical presence. However, his willingness to start with basic techniques and his respectful attitude toward everyone in the dojang quickly won their acceptance. He became known for staying after class to help newer students with techniques he had just learned. Himself, Master Kim had to adjust his teaching methods to accommodate a student whose physical conditioning and mental toughness were already at elite levels, but whose understanding of traditional martial arts philosophy was limited. The challenge invigorated the master, forcing him to think deeply about the principles underlying techniques he had been teaching for decades. The transformation in Captain Lee was remarkable to observe. His movements gradually became more fluid and relaxed, while his understanding of timing and distance improved dramatically. The military precision remained, but it was now enhanced by traditional martial arts concepts of flow, balance, and energy conservation. He was becoming a more complete fighter than he had ever been. The story of their encounter and the guard's decision to become a student spread throughout Korea's martial arts community. Other high-ranking military personnel began visiting the dojang, curious about what Captain Lee had found there. Master Kim found himself teaching soldiers, police officers, and security professionals who brought their own experiences and perspectives to the training. The dynamic between teacher and student evolved into something approaching friendship, though both men maintained appropriate respect for their roles. Captain Lee's questions often challenged Master Kim to examine his own assumptions about technique and application, leading to insights that benefited all the students in the dojang. 6 months after their initial meeting, Captain Lee was scheduled for promotion within the Royal Guard. His superiors had noticed improvements in his performance and leadership qualities that they attributed to his martial arts training. The integration of traditional techniques with modern tactics had made him more effective in his professional duties. Master Kim was invited to attend the promotion ceremony at the palace. It's an honor that had never been extended to a civilian martial arts instructor. The recognition represented not just personal success, but validation of the value that traditional arts could bring to modern applications. The day of the ceremony arrived with great fanfare. Captain Lee, now promoted to major, stood in his new uniform surrounded by colleagues and superiors. When called upon to speak about the influences that had contributed to his professional development, he surprised everyone by asking Master Kim to join him at the podium. The major's words to the assembled dignitaries were simple but powerful. He spoke about the value of remaining humble and open to learning, regardless of one's current position or achievements. He credited his martial arts training not just with improving his physical capabilities, but with teaching him lessons about patience, respect, and continuous self-improvement that had made him a better leader and protector. Master Kim felt a deep sense of satisfaction as he listened to his student speak. The guard's words demonstrated that he had absorbed not just techniques, but the deeper philosophy that made martial arts a way of life rather than simply a fighting system. The teacher knew that Captain Lee would carry these lessons forward and share them with others throughout his career. The ceremony concluded with both men receiving recognition from palace officials. Captain Lee for his exemplary service and continued excellence, and Master Kim for his contribution to the professional development of one of Korea's elite guardsmen. The unusual partnership had created value that extended far beyond their individual accomplishments. 2 years had passed since that memorable day in the palace courtyard, and the friendship between Master Kim and Major Lee had grown beyond the traditional teacher-student relationship. They had become partners in developing new training methods that combined traditional martial arts wisdom with modern tactical applications. Their collaboration was attracting attention from martial arts schools and military training facilities across Asia. The Major had established a special training program within the Royal Guard that incorporated traditional techniques alongside standard military combat training. The results were impressive. Guards trained in the hybrid system showed improved reaction times, better stress management, and enhanced decision-making abilities in high-pressure situations. The success of the program led to requests for similar training from other elite units. Master Kim found himself traveling frequently, invited to military bases and police academies to share his knowledge with professional warriors who had never considered traditional martial arts relevant to their work. The partnerships he formed with these institutions brought new dimensions to his own understanding and teaching methods. The most significant development came when an international martial arts federation approached both men about creating a demonstration team that would showcase their unique blend of traditional and modern fighting techniques. The opportunity would allow them to share their story and methods with a global audience, potentially influencing how martial arts were taught and applied worldwide. The first international demonstration took place in Tokyo, before an audience of martial artists, military officials, and cultural delegates from 12 countries. Master Kim and Major Lee, along with selected students from both military and civilian backgrounds, presented a program that seamlessly blended ceremonial forms, practical techniques, and philosophical discussions about the warrior's path. The response exceeded all expectations. Military attaches requested follow-up meetings to discuss training exchanges. Martial arts masters wanted to learn more about the integration techniques. Cultural organizations saw opportunities to promote Korean traditions through this modern application. What had started as a simple palace demonstration was becoming an international movement. Major Lee received orders to develop a formal curriculum that could be taught to military instructors from allied nations. The project required him to work closely with Master Kim to document their methods and create standardized training protocols. The collaboration pushed both men to articulate concepts they had previously understood intuitively. The documentation process revealed just how much both teachers had learned from each other. Master Kim's techniques had become more practical and applicable to real-world situations, while Major Lee's approach had gained the sophistication and depth that came from traditional martial arts philosophy. Neither man was the same fighter or a teacher he had been before their fateful meeting. Their students were the clearest evidence of the program's success. Military personnel trained in the integrated system showed remarkable improvement in both combat effectiveness and leadership qualities. Civilian students developed confidence and discipline that enhanced their daily lives far beyond the training hall. The synthesis of approaches was creating well-rounded individuals who embodied the best of both traditions. The program's reputation grew to the point where delegation visits became routine. Foreign military officials, martial arts leaders, and cultural representatives regularly visited the dojang and the Royal Guard training facilities to observe methods that were producing exceptional results. Korea was becoming recognized as a leader in innovative warrior training. Master Kim often reflected on how dramatically his life had changed since that morning in the palace courtyard. At an age when many masters were simply maintaining their schools and teaching familiar routines, he had discovered new purposes and challenges that energized him like a much younger man. The guards' request to become a student had opened doors neither of them could have imagined. Major Lee's career had similarly transformed. His success with the integrated training program had led to rapid promotions and responsibilities that extended far beyond traditional guard duties. He was now considered an expert in modern warrior development, frequently consulted by military leaders in training, specialists from around the world. The most rewarding aspect for both men was seeing their students succeed. Guards trained in their methods were being selected for the most challenging assignments and earning recognition for their exceptional performance. Civilian students were applying the confidence and discipline they learned to achieve success in business, education, and community leadership roles, as they prepared for their most ambitious project, yet establishing a permanent international training center that would serve as a model for warrior education worldwide. Both men knew their partnership had achieved something special. They had proven that different approaches to excellence could not only coexist, but could combine to create something better than either could achieve alone. 5 years after their first meeting, Master Kim and Major Lee stood together on a hilltop overlooking the construction site of their international training center. The facility would house students from around the world, bringing together military personnel, law enforcement officers, and civilian martial artists under one roof to learn the integrated system they had developed together. The center's design reflected their philosophy of blending tradition with innovation. Traditional Korean architecture provided the aesthetic framework, while modern training facilities equipped with the latest technology filled the interior spaces. Gardens and meditation areas balanced high-tech simulation rooms and tactical training courses. The physical space itself would teach lessons about harmony and integration. Major Lee, now promoted to colonel, had taken early retirement from active Royal Guard duty to focus full-time on the training center project. His military pension provided financial security, while his passion for teaching gave him a sense of purpose that went beyond personal achievement. He had found his true calling in sharing knowledge rather than simply protecting dignitaries. Master Kim, despite being in his late 50s, had never felt more energetic or purposeful. The challenge of developing new teaching methods and working with students from diverse backgrounds had kept him intellectually sharp and physically active. His reputation had grown from regional master to international authority on warrior development. In cross-cultural martial arts education, the first international class would begin in 3 months, with students already confirmed from 15 countries. Military academies were sending their most promising officers. Police departments were selecting their elite trainers. Martial arts organizations were nominating their most dedicated practitioners. The diversity of the student body would create learning opportunities that neither man had previously experienced. Funding for the center had come from unexpected sources. Military organizations saw the value in having their personnel trained in the integrated system, while cultural foundations supported the preservation and evolution of traditional martial arts. Private donors, many of them successful graduates of their programs, contributed generously to ensure the center's long-term sustainability. The curriculum they had developed was comprehensive and challenging. Students would spend 6 months learning both traditional techniques and modern tactical applications, studying philosophy and psychology alongside physical training, and participating in cultural exchange programs that would broaden their understanding of different approaches to warrior development. As opening day approached, both men reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. What had started as a single moment of mutual respect in a palace courtyard had grown into a movement that was influencing martial arts and military training on multiple continents. Their story had become legend in both communities, inspiring others to look beyond traditional boundaries in their own learning and teaching. The media attention continued to grow as the center's opening approached. Documentary filmmakers wanted to capture the story of their partnership, while journalists from around the world sought interviews about their innovative approach to warrior training. Both men remained focused on their students and programs. but they recognized that their platform could influence positive change in how societies developed and trained their protectors. On the morning before the center's official opening, Master Kim and Colonel Lee conducted their final private training session in the old dojang, where their partnership had developed. The familiar routine of warm-ups, technique practice, philosophical discussion felt both nostalgic and forward-looking. They were honoring their shared history while preparing for the next chapter of their collaboration. The opening ceremony brought together dignitaries from around the world, including military leaders, martial arts masters, and government officials who had supported their work. The crowd that gathered was far larger than the one that had witnessed their first encounter, but the spirit of mutual respect and dedication to excellence remained the same as Master Kim and Colonel Lee cut the ribbon to officially open their International Training Center. Photographers captured a moment that would symbolize the power of collaboration across different disciplines and traditions. The image would appear in newspapers and magazines worldwide, representing not just their personal success, but the potential for innovation that exists when skilled. Practitioners from different backgrounds choose to learn from each other. The first students began arriving that afternoon, their faces showing the same mixture of excitement, nervousness, and determination that both men remembered from their own early training days. As they welcomed these warriors from around the world, Master Kim and Colonel Lee knew they were beginning the most important chapter of their remarkable partnership. Their story had proven that true excellence recognizes no boundaries, that learning never ends regardless of age or achievement, and that the most powerful techniques often emerge when different traditions combine their strengths. The unexpected twist that had shocked the crowd in the palace courtyard years earlier had evolved into a movement that would influence warrior development for generations to come. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from defeating an opponent, but from recognizing greatness in each other and choosing to build something extraordinary together.